Good evening, guys. Testing, testing. Give me a shout out if you can hear me. Sorry that we are like 10 minutes late. I do appreciate you guys giving me some time here to just get organized. Let me read. Cool. So, as always on Sunday night, we're looking at army lists submitted by the community. At the moment, the backlog for submission is reasonably decent. Members' submission queue is like a month. Non-members' submission queue is probably like 3 or 4 months at this point. There have been a lot of submissions since Chapter Approved 2022 come out. So, if you are waiting for a review, I will get to you. Sorry if you are waiting a longer period of time than normal. I'm getting through them as fast as I can. Tonight's lists are by, I put it in the chat, Daniel Lindbergh, Michael Huff, Matty Talent. Next week's lists are by Florian, Sam Milber, and Robbie Murdoch. Is that right? No. Next week's list are, James Fisher, Life RPG, and David, and those ones that I mentioned before our next week. So there's a decent queue. I'm sorry, I'll get through them as soon as I possibly can. But yeah, good evening. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And I had a comment today actually on the channel about make a list to deal with Tau. Well, I'm going to be fighting Tau tomorrow night. It's a boatload of broadsides. I think it's 6 broadside battle suits. I think it's 14 or 13 crisis suits. A couple of Tau commanders. The stream is already up. It's going to be live tomorrow night at 7:30. I'd love it if you could join me for then. And it's going to be tough. I think Tau are in a very good place. I think Tau are bringing home tournaments at the moment. So, yeah, we're going to try and take on Tau tomorrow night. We'll see what shenanigans that we can do. Probably going to put our Dreadnought into reserve again. Either the Contemptor or possibly the Redemptor. I mean, it doesn't synergize so well with my list because I have a Tech Marine. But, I mean, it's Tau, what you got to do. It's not like I'm going to be able to shoot back at them at any sort of decent level of shooting. Impulsors look nice into Tau. I'm not sure, James. I mean, a single shot from the railgun will kill it, right? Or what is it, the Plasma Blast Cannon? I forget the names of all their guns, but that 12 damage weapon will kill the Impulsor in a single shot. Does that feel good? Doesn't feel good to me. I don't know. I haven't figured out Tau. I think that Storm Surges probably need to go up in some points. I was surprised to see Custodes didn't go up in points either, and have I been tempted with Death Company? Do you know what? I'll paint Death Company. Got that Land Speeder to paint. I'm painting the Terminators I'm painting last night, Mike, and then maybe I'll paint some more Death Company. I don't have enough Thunderhammer Death Company models painted. Most of my Death Company were the old ones when they could be Bolter and Chainsword, so I have a bunch with Bolter and Chainsword obviously fully painted. Always end up painting the stuff that can't be used or whatnot. Deep Strike and Death from Above against Tau. Death from Above is probably actually not a bad option against Tau. If you don't feel like taking... I forget what category Death from Above falls into. Death from Above? It falls into No Mercy, No Respite. What else is in No Mercy, No Respite? I've never taken Death from Above. Literally never. No Mercy, No Respite. Has no Do you know what? No Prisoners is going to be good against Tau as well, because literally everything in the army is infantry. So I think I get 14 victory points taking no prisoners against them. But yeah, Death from Above would be okay, maybe in some situations against Tau. But if they are tons of infantry models essentially. How many hammers would you take? Probably like 3 or 4. I'm not sure I feel like going 5 on hammers. Tau and Custodes are dominating the latest tournaments. They seem to lose against each other and themselves. Yeah. How many SMS are there on broadsides rocking? I think they can have 8 shot. I mean, Wapedia has been updated, right? No. It has been updated, but the Tau... Oh, maybe because this is a Russian website, you can't... You know, the drama with Russia at the moment. Maybe they're not letting people into Wapedia. Interesting. The Tau Codex was updated on here the other night. And just while I remember, on our other channel, the Three Grots, if you haven't seen it, just Google YouTube Three Grots. We have a new episode coming out Thursday night this week, and our Thursday night episode is all about Tau. So we spend 2 hours going through just about every unit in the Codex, digging into all, maybe not all the stratagems, but a good number of stratagems, a good number of plays. So if you're interested on like our thought on Tau, I'm not sure we actually managed to work out how you beat them, but we did go and dig deep into Tau. So if you are going to be playing against Tau and you want to know all the bells and whistles and what they can do, then consider heading over to the Three Grots channel and give us a subscribe there. It would mean a lot. I appreciate it. That's coming out on Thursday. We recorded it last Thursday, and it was about 2 hours long, so there's a lot to get into. Right. So this week we're looking at Daniel, Michael, Matty. Let me boot up my first list for tonight. It's by Daniel Lindberg, and since I've got a bunch of stuff painted, so he'd made some changes to the list that he submitted previously. Unlike the previous list, I've not played this one yet, but it should be reliable with 9 Sanguinary Guard, 5 Death Company compared to 5 and 5. I believe that my other list was due this Sunday, so I'll use this one instead. Yeah, that's what we're going to do, Daniel. Okay, so it's 1988 points, it's 7 CP. Angel's Ascendant, and I guess he spent 5 CP before the game starts, and he takes a Calidus Assassin. Okay, so, I mean, the Calidus Assassin is mainly there, I guess, to mess with your opponent's CP, maybe. And I said before, Calidus is good at assassinating, like, toughness 4 characters. She does have that sword that you can prevent invulnerable saves on. So, Calidus Assassin is a fine pick. You can also pay 2 CP to switch it out for another Assassin. Assassins in general right now are fine. I don't think any of them are particularly super strong, but I think they're all usable and they're all fine. I think when we did the tier list on Assassins, we put all the Assassins in B tier. We then have a Chapter Master who's Artisan of War, Gift of Foresight, Adamantium Mantle, Infernal Pistol, a Jump Pack, a Relic Blade, and he has Visage of Death. So, quite a survivable Chapter Master. 2-up save. Does he have 2-up save? No, 3-up save. 4-up save. 3-up save, 4-up Invan, reroll 1 save every turn, 5-up Shrug. I think he would have 5 wounds? I think he would have 5 wounds. I'm going to check it. This is what I get for not playing Firstborn Captains with Jump Packs this edition. He would have 5 wounds. I actually kind of want to do the math there because Adamantium Mantle gives them a 5-up save on 5 wounds. So like 5 times 1.33. So he actually has the equivalent of like 6.65 wounds. Whereas if you gave him what's the Warlord trait? Iron Resolve, he would have 6 wounds and a 6-up Shrug. That would be 1.1666 repeating, of course. Yeah, so you'd actually be better off mathematically by giving this guy Iron Resolve over the Adamantium Mantle. You could do that because you're basically playing Artisan of War as your second Warlord trait to take the Adamantium Mantle. But because you only have 5 wounds, you're actually better off getting the additional wound in the 6-up Shrug. That's just the way it works. Simple maths, I guess. The reason Adamantium Mantle works better, I think, on the Bite Captain is because the Bite Captain has more wounds. So the 5-up, and also I'm running Armor Indomitus on the Bite Captain. So you have 7 wounds. So a 5-up Shrug on 7 is, I think, like a 6-up Shrug on 8. Like there's actually very little in it. But I think Adamantium maybe makes more sense that way around because you feel like a 5-up Shrug is more reliable. But when you only have 5 wounds, it actually makes more sense to go to the 6-up and the 6 Shrug. So you could swap this out for Iron Resolve and it would be slightly better mathematically. And Visage of Death makes you -1 to hit and takes away Obsec from your opponents. Alright. Infiltrators with their Deep Strike denial might be an interesting choice against Tau with the turn 1 Deep Strike and the ability to come in from reserve. I mean, Infiltrators are nice, Harry, but I don't really know what that stops. I mean, if Tau go Mont Ka, their battle suits, their crisis suits can move like 10. Yeah, crisis suits can move like 10. They can advance, and they can still shoot all their heavy weapons, like they remain stationary. So, I mean, like their plasma rifles, for example, I think are 30 inches, I want to say. So, like, you can't hide from them, and they can move like, 13 inches and then shoot 30-inch plasmas, and they're like 3 damage a shot at -4 and strength 8. Like, I don't know how infiltrators protect you against that. I mean, yeah, Tau do have that nice stratagem to get the turn 1 deep strike. If they take... Oh, I can't remember. We go over it in the podcast. There's a unit they can take that they can call down another unit from deep strike in turn 1. But I don't think it really helps you all that much making them stay 12 inches away. It's not like they're trying to get in combat. They're still going to shoot you, right? And most of their guns have... All their guns have more than 12 inches. So I don't really know if infiltrators will help you that much. We have a librarian with Unleash Rage, Shield of Sanguinius, and Blood Boil. He's the chief librarian. He's got Gilliman Staff, so that gives him +1 to cast Sanguinary Discipline powers. He has an Infernal Pistol. He's Psychic Mastery, so he gets +1 on all the other casts. So basically, for his Unleash Rage, Shield of Sanguinius, and Blood Boil, he will be casting these on a 4. So that makes them very reliable. They're probably the correct powers to take in this case. Play the Librarian more as a buff character. A lot of people like the Space Marine traits for a Librarian, but if you are going to go Sanguinary Discipline, then I think Unleash Rage is really, really strong. Its exploding 6s on like our big units are pretty useful. Yeah, Reziel says Tau don't give a crap about 12-inch zones. That's reasonably... that's kind of what I would agree with. Alright, we've got a squad of Assault Intercessors, a squad of Heavy Intercessors, which we barely ever see with the Executioner Bolt Rifles. I believe they are the Strength 5 -2 damage rifles. And again, like, on paper they sound pretty nice, right? Because you think, like, Strength 5 -2 damage, Heavy Intercessors. Yeah, 36-inch range, I think, as well. Executioner Bolt Rifle... Oh, sorry, 42-inch range, so even better on the range. But you only get 5 shots. You're only ballistic skill 3, so realistically you're making like 3 hits. Let's say you're wounding toughness 4 things, so you're making 2 wounds. They're -2, so I mean you're killing like a model maybe. If you're shooting these at Marines, you're killing maybe a single Marine. So for a 150-point unit that can kill a tactical Marine each turn, I generally don't think these are that useful. I'd rather see incursors. I mean, I guess they're survivable, and you can transhuman them, and they're toughness 5. They get 3 wounds. I mean, that part of them is good, but like their actual guns, when you math it out, kind of seemed lackluster. And then we got a squad of incursors, which I like. I think they're the best troop choice that you can put into your army at the moment. Death Company, 2 hammers and 3 infernal pistols. I mean, this is decent. Nice cheap Death Company. I like how they reduced the points cost on these. Sanguinary Guard, and I think he said it was a 9-man. 9-man makes sense at 298 points. 2 infernal pistols, mostly swords and axes, a good mix. I ran an 8-man Sanguinary Guard in a tournament recently, and what I found with running an 8-man Sanguinary Guard is, like, if the enemy really wants to kill the Sanguinary Guard, they'll kill them. They're not that survivable. They're just like they're basically a Marine with a +1 to their save, right? So if they ever get left out of cover, Sanguinary Guard die very, very quickly. The fact that they've got no invuln save hurts them a lot as well. Like if the enemy has realistically a lot of high AP shots, and enemies will shoot your Sanguinary. Anytime your Sanguinary Guard are left out of cover, enemies will shoot them. They know how much damage they do. They know they're going to be like the #1 threat on the board. So when I ran an 8-man squad, I felt like it was no better to me than a 7-man. In terms of survivability, it didn't really help me. 9-man, I guess, like leadership may even be a problem here, because Sanguinary Guard are only using leadership 8. So if you take heavy losses in a single turn, you could expect to fail leadership. I think Sanguinary Guard work best as, I've said before, 7s to 9s. But, I mean, I'd probably rather do, if it was up to me, is run like 2 7s over a single 9. But, I mean, points and stuff, you have to decide that. The Terminator squad, Assault Terminator Sergeant with a master-crafted Thunderhammer. Oh, interesting. I never even thought about this. That's a good upgrade, actually. I like that. So your Terminator Assault Sergeant has a 4 damage Thunderhammer. That's something that we don't see. I've never actually thought... Like, I've been running Terminators now for a little while. This is interesting. That's very cool. It's hard to kill Terminators, right? They are the strongest models that we really have. But he is running the whole squad with Thunderhammers and Storm Shields. And I don't like that. I would run like a couple Lightning Claws in the squad because it keeps the points cost down. You can get the squad at 200 points, including the Teleport Homer, if 2 guys have Lightning Claws. And also, sometimes, you know, your Terminators might get bogged down by 1 wound infantry. In that case, you're going to waste a lot of Thunderhammer damage. So having a couple of guys in there with Lightning Claws, they're pretty damn good against 1 wound infantry in that you get 6 attacks. And obviously they can hit on 2s with Fury of the First, and then reroll everything. That's something to consider as well. You can string out the 12-inch bubbles. Yeah, totally. You can string out the bubbles, but like, what do they do for you, RPG? Is this working yet? No. Is Tau gonna work? Let me see. Tau Empire. Even like the crisis battle suits. Yeah, the plasma rifles are 30 inches. So like, if these guys are going to deep strike, a 12-inch bubble is going to do nothing. You're going to have to get really creative if you're going to try and put your infiltrators down to stop a 30-inch plasma rifle in turn 1 or something. Like, yeah, good luck with that. I feel like that's not happening. Fast attack wise, we get two units. The first one is our Intercessor squad in there with plasmas. The second one is a multi-metal land speeder. Both of these units are pretty useful. I don't have a problem with either unit. I think they can both be played pretty effectively. And obviously, the one weakness with Intercessors, the Inceptors, why do they call everything the similar names, and Cursors, Interceptors? The one weakness with Inceptors is -1 damage targets. They're pretty weak against those. And also re-rolling 1s, but you have a way to counter that with your captain. Eliminator squad with Las Fusols and Instigator bolt rifle, with one with Quake bolts and one obviously without. We've seen these guys, the Eliminator squads with Las Fusols and the Sergeant like that, where they can move, shoot, move. They actually won a GT, right? As a Blood Angels player, I can't remember the exact list that he ran, but it's on my channel. If you're not familiar with, like, if you just YouTube BA Commander and you go to the actual channel page and you scroll down to competitive army list, this one here, Blood Angels win a GT. This was the list that had 2 squads of Eliminators with these Las Fusols. So you're popping out, you're shooting 2 Las Fusols. You're hitting on 3s, I guess, because they're normally ballistic skill 2. They're strength 8 -3, 3 damage. I like the flat 3 damage, and then you're moving them back into cover. And was it Chris Chance that won the GT? No, it wasn't Chris. It was Sam Procopio, I believe. I've covered a few different lists of winning tournaments. I think it was Sam that won that list, and he ran this double Eliminator squad. And then we have a Whirlwind with a Hunter Killer Missile, a Stormbolter, and the Vengeance Launcher. You need to cut this down to 125 points. Lose the Vengeance Launcher. I mean, your Whirlwind should never be seen by the enemy, so arguably it should never have any targets. So the Hunter Killer Missile and Stormbolter are wasted. If the enemy ends up charging into your Whirlwind, Stormbolter's not going to kill anything anyway, so it's just 5 points. You need to have a unit around there to help the Whirlwind out, as opposed to like trying to put a gun on the Whirlwind that's going to help it out. So I would take those 20 points. I would also save 20 points in the Terminator squad, so we get 40 points to play with. 40 points, I would probably even save another 45 points on those heavy Intercessors, so you have 95 points to play with. At that point, that's essentially 3 Sangre Guard are 96 points, so you could make this into 2 squads of 6 Sangre Guard. I prefer that a lot more over 1 squad of 9. I think squads of 6 are maybe borderline a little bit too small, and you could actually have an Infernal Pistol in both, because you've already paid the points for 2, right? I would much prefer 2 squads of 6 Angry Guard over the 1 squad of 9. Because at that point, you rely so much on that 1 squad of 9. If they get picked off or anything like that, and I mean, like I said, enemies will try and pick them off. You play against orcs, Tyranids, anything that's got really solid indirect fire, the new Eldar, they will go after your Sangre Guard first. They know that they can kill them. Tau. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. In reserves, Assault Intercessors and the Land Speeder. I mean, I like that. In Deep Strike, all that can, but possibly Forlorn Fury, the Death Company. So, Sangre Guard, Terminators, Inceptors, I guess probably all in Deep Strike, maybe even as Chapter Master. You could get unstuck on that one new mission where you actually have to have your Warlord on the battlefield to get command points each turn, so that might be a little bit of a problem. I also want to say, like, as much as you maybe want to protect your Sangre Guard, I wouldn't always just instantly put them into Deep Strike. Sangre Guard can start on the board in cover. If the enemy doesn't have any indirect fire and there's some solid good cover, I'd probably start them on the board because it gives you like a defensible position. You can jump out 12 inches, you can make charges, and if you need them somewhere else, you can always, upon wings of fire them once the game gets going, right? So he's trying to play without dreadnoughts. I play against too many heavy guns, it seems, including flyers that kill them turn 1. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm probably, if you do come up against those, if you start with a lot of CP, maybe you can throw one of the dreadnoughts into reserve, so you can at least do some damage with the dreadnought. Chapter Master could swap his relic, but I play a lot of OBSEC stuff. Alternative is Storm Shield and Armor Indomitus for 0 up saving cover, cost 10 more points. So Thunderhammer unfortunately adds another 10, which is stupid expensive. Could swap for a Bite Chapter Master if I had the model. It's fine running the Chapter Master the way you've run him. You can improve him a tiny bit with the Iron Resolve. I love the Bite Chapter Master, but I might be the minority. A lot of people do like the ability of jump units, right? Librarian with Sanguinary Discipline, I think, can have more use for that in every game when I don't have any dreadnoughts. Null Zone is very nice, but you can go many games without ever using it. Mephiston is a possible choice here too. Saves 1 CP and is better in fighting, but plus no to cast. Yeah, I mean, I've been running Mephiston now for like 3 or 4 weeks. I'm going to run him again tomorrow, and that is 100% true. You know, like, Mephiston is better at fighting, but the other Librarian is just going to be more reliable at getting your spells off. Null Zone can obviously be very useful in some games and useless in others. I don't dislike any of those 3 Librarians. I feel like at the highest level, the Librarian with Null Zone is probably the safest choice, but with the reduction to Mephiston and the fact he is quite good in combat, I think he's okay to run, and I think a Librarian with the staff doing what you've done, making him like a buff character using Unleashed Rage, Shield, and Blood Boil, again, I think is quite okay to run. The thing I like about doing it this way is you're getting +2 to your cast, so you could Unleash Rage and Shield the Death Company very reliably. I mean, in this list, when we save those 90 points, you might even want to consider spending those 90 points on, like, what, another Death Company with a hammer and 2 more with chainswords or something. Like, you've got the ability to make that Death Company quite reliable in turn 1, so it might be something to consider. Calidus for killing weaker to average strength characters to gain some CP. Costing your opponent CP is also great when it happens. Almost impossible to screen out 2 if you're lucky. Yeah, because Calidus can come in just about anywhere. I don't dislike the Calidus Assassin. I think some armies she's kind of useless against, but I mean, everything has strengths and weaknesses, right? Heavy Intercessors are a controversial pick, but I like them in the backfield objective with some long-range firepower. Hellfire Shell strat is great, especially against C'tans. I see a lot of those. We'll try them a few more games while painting up more Incursors and Infiltrators. Why are Hellfire Shells great against C'tan? They just do mortal wounds, right? I actually don't know. I thought it was just like in the shooting phase, rather than if you make a hit roll with your heavy bolter, then you're... Use the strategy in your shooting phase. When your army shoots a heavy bolter, you can only make 1 attack with that weapon, but if a hit is suffered, you do D3 mortal wounds. I mean, okay, I mean, it's not brilliant against Catan. I guess it's a way to do some long-range mortal wounding. I guess, yeah, if you don't have much other shooting in your list, then I guess it can be useful. I don't like the fact that you only hit on... You have to pay 1 CP for an attack that only hits on 3s, though. That seems pretty rough. So 2 out of 3 times you just waste... Sorry, 1 out of 3 times you just waste the CP. There may be some room to make nice adjustments, moving 5 points around. The Whirlwind is fully decked out, as it doesn't need to be, but it's nice when it actually kills a few models during the game. I don't think the Whirlwind ever kills models, really. Oh, so it does the flat 3 mortals against the Catan? Did I miss that? Sorry. Oh, because it's a monster. Okay, so... Yeah, I mean, I guess that doesn't sound horrible. So, infantry shooting heavy bolter. I guess it's quite an edge play. We don't really see heavy bolters much. But yeah, if you don't have any real other long range shooting, then I guess that's one way of doing it. Yeah. I guess that could be useful, Catan. I agree. The Vengeance Launcher and the Whirlwind. If you look at averages, like I did a video on the Whirlwind, go watch it, and I work out like the damage the Vengeance Launcher did against the Castellan Launcher, and like there's no difference. Like you're paying 10 points for like less than 1/10 of a damage a turn or something like that. Like it was almost depressing on how little difference it was. Let me see if I can actually find it. I might be able to just pull the slide up real quick. I think I called it, yeah, is this indirect fire slide? Hold on, I think I got it. Yeah, so the Whirlwind Castellan versus the Vengeance Launcher. The actual damage difference against different things. Oh, Mortarion actually takes more damage than the Castellan. Okay. But yeah, like, you're paying 10 points for, like, 0.01 of a damage per turn. In a bunch of cases, yeah, I mean, against like, character... You're never going to get to shoot a character anyway with a Whirlwind. And I guess maybe the enemy... You're going to do an extra point of damage against, like, Gravis units. But for the most part, the Whirlwind, the 10 points on the Whirlwind are better spent somewhere else, in my opinion. If you think of the Whirlwind as the most important job of the Whirlwind is, like... The most important job of the Whirlwind is to get the suppression fire off, right? So you want to get the max, as many shots as you can. So that's what's good about 2d6 shots. 2d6 shots on the Castellan kind of always guarantees you're going to be able to make suppression fire. Whereas 1d6 on the Vengeance Launcher maybe means that you only get 1 shot and you need to hit on a 3, so you fail. I've been using the Whirlwind for a long time, and I've never failed the suppression fire with the Vengeance Launcher, where I probably would have failed it with the cat. Sorry, I've never failed it with the Castellan Launcher. I probably would have failed it with the Vengeance Launcher. Okay. Overall, the list is fine. I like the Eliminators. I like the Landspeeder. I'd like the Whirlwind if you change its loadout. I like the Terminators, but I think you'd be fine with some Lightning Claw guys in there. I sort of dislike the Giant Sanguinary Guard, because if they ever get picked off, the whole squad can probably be picked off, and it can be very difficult to recover. I'd much prefer you tweak that into like 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard. I guess because you don't have a whole ton... Hold on, Phil, you've got 2 squads of Eliminators with Las Fusils. Surely if the enemy's playing a Catan, you can just pop both these out, put all 4 Las Fusils into the Catan, and you've got your 3 damage, the maximum you can do in the phase, right? Because, like, 4 Las Fusils hitting on 3s, I mean, just, I guess, do the math, like, so it'd be 4 times 0.66, yeah, what's the strength of Catan? It's 7, right? Pretty sure it's strength 7. Let me just check, like, Void Dragon, I guess. Sorry, not strength. Toughness, yes. Toughness 7. I always get strength and toughness mixed up. I've been doing that for years. So basically, yeah. So it's the Catan would almost need to take 2 saves. Yeah. So I mean, I guess having the heavy bolter there, decent. I just worry a little bit about big 9-man Sanguinary Guard. You put a lot of the game comes down to whether they're alive in turn 3 through 5, because Terminators can't like move around the board systematically killing models indiscriminately. Sometimes Sanguinary Guard can, and sometimes that wins me lots of games. I get you're starting them off the board potentially. Yeah, I think I understand that you've got no dreadnoughts. I think that's probably a good conscious choice to probably have no dreadnoughts just now. But if you're going to have no dreadnoughts, then I feel like you probably wanted to have like a 4th fast moving jump unit. How you do that, I think something has to give out of all this other stuff. Yeah. I mean, I think you would run like the Whirlwind, 2 Eliminators and a Land Speeder and drop the Inceptors, or you'd like keep the Inceptors and the Eliminators and the Whirlwind, maybe drop the Land Speeder. Yeah, heavy intercessors as well. I feel like I don't have a good handle on them. I've only run them like once or twice, and I don't know if I felt like they were amazing. All right, OBSEC. I'm gonna give you 8.5 because you have 3 troop choices, and we have the Visage of Death. Anti-Horde infantry effectiveness. I mean, we've got a little bit of anti-Horde firepower. Maybe like a 7. You know, we've got the Sanguinary Guard, those heavy intercessors. I guess the Inceptors maybe. Yeah, okay. You know what? I'll give you a 7.5 because if you use the Inceptors, they can kill a lot of Horde-based stuff very quickly because they get like if the unit has more than 6 models in it, then Inceptors will get their full 18 shots, which is pretty nice. How many 3 damage or more weapons you got in this list? So you got Infernal Pistol on the top guy. You got on the Chapter Master. I guess you've got. I don't think the Kaladas Assassin has a 3 damage weapon. She just has 2. So 2 in the Librarian, 1 on the Chapter Master. 2 in the Death Company, that gives you 5. 2 more Infernal Pistols in the Sanguinary Guard, that gives you 7. You get 5 Thunderhammer here's. Alright, you get 12. The Multi-Melta. And then those. Okay, so you've got like 17 3 damage or more weapons. I guess 18 if you include the Hunter Killer Missile, but I really think you should drop it. So you're kind of good on 3 damage or more weapons in more ways than one. You got loads of that. Mobility wise, I think you've got a load of mobility as well. It's just the troops that are not going to be mobile, and I guess maybe you don't overly care. I also did a video on I think I did a video on heavy intercessors damage output, right? And I didn't think it was that impressive for the number of points. But yeah, overall mobility I think is like an 8. And then specialization. So we've got the Fight Last. We've got 2 denies because we've got Chief Librarian. We've got like 3 units of actions. We get 17 3 damage or more weapons. I think we're starting on 7 CP, which is okay, borderline 6, I guess, if you reserve those guys. So it's okay. It's right on the cusp. And then protection against mortal wounds, we have nothing, right? No protection against mortal wounds. Which I guess maybe is your one smallish weakness. I do actually really like your idea of the Thunderhammer on the Mastercrafted Thunderhammer on the Sergeant. So we'll say like we'll put a 9 there. It's just the lack of protection against mortal wounds, and that's actually a very reasonable score. So, if you go to Dreads at all, don't overlook the Sanguinary Ancient banner. The Sanguinary Ancient banner gives you the +1 to hit, right? What else would you be wanting to take from it? The fact that you get the 2-inch additional movement, James, or the on death? Like, do an attack on death part of the banner? Like, what part of it do you think is really strong? I mean, he's got 3 characters here anyway, so if you wanted to take a Sanguinary Ancient, you'd kind of have to probably drop the Kaladas Assassin. I mean, you could. I guess it depends on what you think brings more to your army. Sangre Ancient is good though. Okay. But yeah, that's a decent list. Do I prefer like a bike captain in this list over a chapter master? I mean, I think I do, just because I know how survivable the bike captain can be. But I mean, it's a minor change as well, and yeah, I do really like a couple of lightning claws in those Terminator squads. I think that can help you too. The 2 inches movement ensures you can make cover when moving up. Another character to take Soul Warden with. Yeah, I mean, I guess the Sangre Ancient could run Soul Warden. There's a lot of mortal wounds going around. Tau got some crazy mortal wound strategy as well on some of their big tanks. They're able to do like 8 mortal wounds in a turn, I think, for 1 CP. I would love a stratagem that lets us do 8 mortal wounds for 1 CP. I tell you, if there's only 2 jump units, you don't think the Sangre Ancient is worth it, says Peter. That's probably valid, Peter, yeah. I mean, technically, your Inceptors would get the benefit from the jump, the 2 inches of jump, but it's so minor. Every time I say I wish we had every time I say I wish we had Primaris jump units, someone's like, hey, we've got Inceptors, and I was like, I don't know if I really rate those as jump units. And if you are enjoying today's video at any point, guys, I would love it if you could click the like button just so it could spread to a few more people. That would be much appreciated. Okay, Daniel, keep asking in chat if you've got any more questions, but I will be moving on to the next list, which will be by Michael Huff. Okay, is that how you say it? Huff? Hough? I hope so. Alright, so he's on 11 CP at 1992 points. He's taken Astaroth, and he is the Warlord with Soul Warden, Mantra of Strength, Canticle of Hate, Litany of Hate. He obviously has Mass of Doom as well, but you don't, I guess it doesn't note it down. He's taken a Death Company Captain on a bike with an Infernal Pistol and Lightning Claws and Rites of War. So, interestingly, we're giving the Death Company... what's Rites of War do? Is it coring characters? I don't know if I've ever run Rites of War. Yeah, coring characters within 6 inches get OBSEC. So the Death Company Captain on a bike gets OBSEC, which is a little bit of a strange choice to me, because I see the Death Company Captain on a bike as more of a... just like a smashing captain, like almost like Hero Hammer of old. I don't really necessarily feel he's like a team player, but I guess you're making him a team player with Rites of War, and I mean, he's on a bike. He does get the shrug. It might be okay. Interesting, I guess, with the pre-game movement as well. And then we also get Lamartez here, who is... Lamartez should be able to have a litany here. I don't know why he hasn't chosen any. I typically never run Lamartez. I haven't run him once at all this edition. But he does get litanies, right? He should know 2 litanies. And he can actually take the same litanies as like Astaroth or whatnot. His litanies just only affect the Death Company. It can recite 2 litanies, even if they've already been recited by a friendly model. The unit cannot be affected by the same litany more than once per round. So yeah, I mean, I guess in this way, if there was a way you could run 4 litanies that could all buff the same Death Company models, you could, but I don't know really. I guess you might want Litany of Faith so that you have like the ability to give the 5-up shrug against mortal wounds. Or you might want him to just have Canticle of Hate as well. But regardless, Lamartez should be able to take 2 more litanies. Right. Troops are 3 squads of Incursors, and you know, I rate Incursors very highly. I always include them. They're like my go-to troops. I just think Mantra of Strength and Litany of Faith. Okay, yeah, I was going to say Litany of Faith made sense. So Astaroth can put Mantra of Strength on himself, and Lamartis can do it as well. It says you can recite 2 litanies, even if they've already been recited by a friendly model in the battle round. Yeah, okay, so both of them can recite Litany of Faith. Never thought of that. Okay. Sorry, both of them can do Mantra of Strength. Okay, interesting. We've got a pair of Death Company Dreadnoughts. I was going to say, this is going to be a Death Company heavy list, because you've got Astrath, a Death Company Captain, and Lamartis. So there's definitely going to be some Death Company in here. I hope you painted your Incursor's Death Company as well to make the theming go correctly. So, Meltagun, Smoke Launcher, Stormbolters, 2 times Blood Talons. I would probably maybe think about Flamers on these, because Flamers will, at least 1 Flamer will make it a lot more difficult for the enemy to charge you. 2 Flamers kind of makes you almost unchargeable by certain infantry and stuff like that. I mean, the Meltagun is nice, but it's just like 1 random shot against a vehicle. I mean, that could be okay. I prefer Flamer here to the Stormbolter, and I actually think Blood Talons are maybe a little bit of a trap on the Death Company Dreadnoughts, personally, because if you just run the Furioso Fists, you're still on like Strength 14. The Furioso Fists have an additional point of -1 AP. I guess the only time the Blood Talons are going to be better, I guess, is if your opponent's like Custodes and everything's on like a 4-up save. Because if things don't have a 4-up save and an additional point of AP is going to help you out, then Furioso Fists are 10, I think it's 10 points cheaper for the Furioso Fists. And when you compare the two together, if I can ever find the Death Company Dreadnought, the Blood Talons are strength 10, so arguably wounding anything on 2s. -2, 3 damage. The Furioso Fists are strength 12, -3, 3 damage. So it's super minor. It's like you're paying 10 points for a reroll on that wound roll and 1 less AP, but you're going to be wounding on 2s anyway, right? So I guess the question is 10 points worth a reroll on -1 AP? Against some armies, yes, it will be, but if it was me and I was running Death Company Dreadnoughts, and don't get me wrong, all my Death Company Dreadnoughts are built with Blood Talons, so I couldn't do this right now. I'd literally need to go out and buy like 2 more Death Company Dreadnoughts. But if I was going to run Death Company Dreadnoughts, I'd run them with the Fists, just because I think you wound on 2s anyway, so you're only really re-rolling 1s, and you've lost a point of AP, so you're paying. I think what you gain with the reroll and the wound, you're going to lose with the less AP, so you basically end up paying 10 points for nothing, right? The way I roll, they're useful. Yeah, okay, the way that some people roll, they're useful, but I think if you actually boil it down, most of the time you're going to pay 10 points. You're getting very little there. So I guess if you need to shave 10 points off to find something else to put into your list, then this would be the first place to look, right? Death Company Marines with 2 Thunder Hammers, Infernal Pistols and Power Fists, and 4 with Bolt Pistols and Chainswords. Another squad identical, 245 points, and another squad identical, 244 points. Interestingly, that would mean that your 2 the last units are all the Death Company blobs, right? So that could actually be kind of interesting. The one disadvantage, I guess, of doing the 2 the last is that your Death Company have Leadership 7, which I think is a bit stupid. I think it should be higher. But all these Death Company blobs are pretty, it's a pretty good mix of weapons. We usually say for like every 4 models we want a Thunder Hammer, and then we've got a couple of pistols because we might end up stuck in combat. You want to blow things up with pistols, and we got some Power Fists as well. Good against ramshackle orc vehicles right now in the meta, that is for sure. 2 land speeders with multi-meltas, and then the Whirlwind, obviously very useful if you're going to be charging a lot and you need to prevent overwatch. I suppose you can do a decent amount of stuff here, and you got a lot of CP as well. Do you know, if this was me and you've got this many CP, I would be forlorning Fury one of these Death Company Marine squads, right? And you'd probably be using like Massive Dune on them to give them like potentially +1 to hit, and you'd probably be using maybe like Canticle of Hate, like maybe Canticle of Hate as well to give them the 2 inches extra to charge. So you've got like that really strong Alpha Strike component. I guess you could even throw like. I was wondering if there was another litany you could throw on them to make them even stronger here. There is actually. Let me think about this for just 1 second. If you're sure you're gonna run Ramartas and Astroth, then you probably, why don't you take is there not? Yeah, this Recantation of Focus. I never run it. If this litany is inspiring, select one friendly core or character within 6. Each time the model makes it's a ranged attack. Is there not one for melee? I thought there was one for melee that gave it +1 to hit. No? Am I wrong? I guess the melee one is just the default Litany of Hate, which is a reroll aura. Okay, that's annoying. Because I was thinking maybe you could do you know what? Based on what we just said, Massive Doom is +1 to hit, right? Which counters the Thunderhammer's -1 to hit, right? So in the last list we talked about maybe taking a Sangre Ancient, right? Bear with me here. If you took a Sangre Ancient, you cast Massive Doom to make the one Death Company +1 to hit, you use the Sangre Ancient to make them another +1 to hit, and then essentially what you end up doing is you have your Thunderhammers hitting on 2s because they're -1 to hit, but you've got them with +2 to hit, so it averages out that they end up +1, which is Thunderhammers hitting on 2s, right? And also your Power Fists will hit on 2s. So at that point, like I said, you could save 20 points swapping out these Blood Talons for Fists. If you did that, you could make it cost you 20 points to put this Death Company captain into the Death Company, right? Just leave the Death Company and become a Chapter Master. So this guy is your Chapter Master. He can make one squad of Death Company reroll all their hits. You then cast Massive Doom to give them +1 to hit. You then you then use the Sangre Ancient to give them like potentially another +1 to hit. Then you would have your Death Company hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, hitting on 2s with their Thunderhammers and everything, rerolling 1s. So that's one way you could do it. I'm not sure the strength of Lamarta is like. I've not run him at all this edition, so you can reroll charges if you're within 6 of them. You can, but I mean, if you want to reroll charges, then you can always take Icon of the Angel. Your Sangre Ancient could run Icon of the Angel, right? Exorientation of Rage, is that the one that I was looking for? I'm looking for +1 to hit, not +1 on the wound roll. Yeah, no, that's not what I'm looking for. What's the big strong thing that Lamartis is bringing to the battlefield? I know he also, Death Company can use his leadership. I struggled to see, and I mean, I guess Lamartis can use a Death Vision, right? Because he's got the Black Rage keyword. I think that's what you need for the Death Vision, right? But like, honestly, I don't really see him bringing a lot to the battlefield. I mean, you've got these 3 squads of Death Company. I think you're crying out to buff them, right? Astroth is great at buffing Death Company. Any captain that gives rerolls is great at buffing Death Company. He doesn't necessarily need to be a Death Company captain. If he's a Chapter Master, you actually make it easier for yourself to use your Chapter Master aura on the Death Company after the Forlorn Furied, and like get those rerolls at range. If you want to keep Lamartas, I mean, I guess that's fine. I just don't really see what all he brings. because Astaroth means that Death Company don't fail morale at all, whereas Lamartis is like they can use his morale. So, I mean, is it not just around positioning Astaroth correctly? Yeah. But Death Company have gone down in points. When we did Math Hammer on them, they're pretty competitive now. 3 squads of them, and the Death Company Dreadnoughts. I'd probably reserve one of the Dreadnoughts at least. Just so we can bring it in and make a charge. I mean, that's what's good with Death Company Dreadnoughts. Lamartis was more of a fluffy choice, but good to reroll charges and Soul Warden. Well, I mean, you wouldn't get the Soul Warden from Lamartis because he isn't the Warlord, right? You'd only get that from Astaroth. I guess he's a fluffy choice. I think Lamartis is the weak link here, and I think if you're running Death Company like this, there's 2 things you can do, right? One would be to take that Sangre Ancient and give them another +1 to hit. The other thing, and the Sangre Ancient can run the Wrath of Baal, or he could run Icon of the Angels, so you could still get those rerolls on your charges. Or the other thing to do would be to run a cheap Psyker and use Unleash Rage on the Death Company, because if you can get the Death Company with +1 to hit, or and reroll everything, and then 6's burst, you can actually, you could get a lot of weight out of that. And I mean, that's one of the reasons that I keep running Mephiston, even though Mephiston isn't that great. Unleash Rage, I think, is a great spell, right? Unmodified hit rolls of 6 score 1 additional hit. If you're running a big squad of guys, you could actually go not wrong here by having a Sangre Priest over Lamartis, because a Sangre Priest could actually put 2 of your Death Company units into Assault Doctrine in turn 1, and I guess if they're in Assault Doctrine, Thunderhammers get a lot more scary in Assault Doctrine, because they're kind of, the -2 is kind of meh, -3 is good, and obviously everybody gets an additional attack for being an Assault Doctrine as well. So Death Company Marines can use his leadership, yeah. I think Lamartis is a weak link in terms of your characters. The other 2 seem fine. The troops seem good. The 3 squads of Death Company, the only disadvantage of having all that Death Company is lack of units for actions, but there is that secondary that I think I talked about it in my video this week. I never use it. It's called like Lost or something, right? What was it called? Do you know what? If I just search Death from Above, I'll find it, because it'll be next to it. Fury of the Lost. Score 3 victory points at the end of a turn if 1 or more enemy units have been destroyed by Death Company. Well, pretty much, if you do keep Lamartis, then just about the whole army is Death Company. So if you just kill anything with them in a single turn, you'll get 3 victory points. Yeah, simple as that. So I guess that's a good secondary to pick, Fury of the Lost, right? And I guess you're adding OBSEC as well, which makes sense because Death Company sort of lack... You're going to lack OBSEC in this battle, so having someone that can bring that in is going to help you. Okay, let's do a little bit of scoring around this list. We're thinking OBSEC, 3 Incursors, and Rites of War. I'm going to give you a 9. It might have been 9.5, but... yeah, do you know what? We'll give you 9.5. Anti-Horde, we don't have very much firepower in this at all. So anti-horde shooting essentially is going to be quite weak. Maybe even like 6.5. 3 damage weapons then. Astaroth's got 1. Your captain's got 1. Lamartis potentially has 1 if he does Mantra of Strength, so that's 3 already. Both Death Company Dreadnoughts have essentially 2, I guess, if you include the Meltagun Fist, so that's 7. And each of these squads have like 4. So 19, and then 2 more multi-metals. So you got like 21 3 damage weapons. So we'll say that you're fine for killing monsters. That shouldn't be a problem. Mobility is generally actually really high. Really high. The only thing that isn't mobile is Death Company Dreadnoughts. Do you know what? It makes no sense to me. And you guys can tell me in chat what you think about this. Like, Death Company Dreadnoughts move 6 inches, right? they're 125, I guess 140 points or whatever, you know? It's like those friggin' Moraxes. Morax, am I spelling this? Or War Dog, whatever they're called, those Chaos Knights. They got like a 14-inch move. They literally look this like they literally look the same. They got like maybe slightly more spindly legs. Why do they get to move 14 and our Dreadnought moves 6? I mean, they're the same bloody points. Same strength, same toughness. They actually get a boat more wounds as well. And they count for 5 models in OBSEC, and they get an invulnerable save. Yeah, I don't understand. I think chicken dreadnoughts. I guess like the chicken dreadnoughts are the old classic dreadnoughts that some people tend to think. I don't know why people call them a chicken. They don't look that much like a chicken to me, but I guess they're called chicken dreadnoughts. The fact that they only move 6 is. It seems like it's a legacy rule. I don't really understand why these guys need to move 14 and our dreadnoughts move 6. I mean, the Death Company dreadnought is supposed to be like. He's basically a dead, insane soldier inside a dreadnought that is hell bent on getting into melee, but he moves 6. You know, like, you wouldn't think he would be like pushing it a little bit to get a little bit faster, another inch of movement or something. No, he just moves the exact same as like a regular man that's walking, you know? Okay, but they're the only real weak link here. End of rant, I guess. So we'll say 8.5, slightly better than the last list. Is it slightly better than the last list? Let me think. Yeah, I mean, the last list of Terminators, which are notoriously slow as well, even slower. Yeah, let's say 8.5. Wolfton said he should be running. Yeah, he should be running at least 8 inches. I'd almost push for a Death Company. Like, Furiosos and Librarian Dreadnought should have 8. The Death Company Dreadnought should have 10. That guy's insane. He wants to be in combat as quick as possible. He doesn't move the same as everybody else. He's pushing it to the max. And then you have the fight last. You don't have denies, so like a point off for that. You're kind of low on units for actions, and you've just got your 3 troops, which is kind of okay. You've got a lot of 3 damage weapons. You've got a very high number of CP, and you've got protection against mortals. I'm going to give you the same 9, actually. You're going to pip Daniel by half a point here. But I do think Lamartez is the weak link here. I just don't know what he brings. I think if you've got 11 CP, even if you spend 2 on Forlorn Fury and you have 9, you're in great shape. So I would swap out Lamartez for someone that is going to bring more to your Death Company. Or yeah, I mean, like, you're relying a lot on your 3 squads of Death Company. So get them an Assault Doctrine, get them either, you know, further buffs to hit, get them an invulnerable save from a Librarian. You know, Librarian can give them both invulnerable save and exploding 6s. So I think there's improvements. I get it's fluffy. If you want to run just fluffy, Michael, go for it. But I think if you want to push this competitive, then push into, you know, you've got ways of making these Death Company stronger, getting a stronger Alpha Strike, and I think you want to do that because you don't have a lot of shooting, right? So you want like a unit of Death Company to be in the face of the enemy, killing stuff from turn 1, making them like reevaluate their positioning. And to really do that effectively, I think that Death Company need more buffs than just Massive Doom is good. If you give them Chapter Master rerolls, that would be really good as well. But I think if you could give them like another buff or 2, either Assault Doctrine, I guess you can do Assault Doctrine via stratagems, but it's going to be very expensive. So I think you would either want to take the Priest or Librarian. And I think both, you know, The Librarian is going to give you 2 chances. It's going to give you Exploding Sixes, which is arguably as good as the extra attack from Shock Assault, but the Librarian can also give you that 1 squad of Death Company that's going to go in turn 1, can give them a 5-up invuln, which is kind of big. You know, the Librarian we saw in the last list actually could actually be perfect for this list, which was like a Librarian with a staff, the Galleon staffs that would cost you 1 CP, and then you could basically be doing like Unleash Rage and Shield of Sanguinius on 5s. 5s with a reroll, I think, is very reliable. I can tell you the math chance on that. I use this website called AnyDice, and if you roll 2d6 and you need a 5, so basically you would reroll 2, 3, 4. Let me calculate that. Is that right? Left an extra at least. So 5 with a reroll is 97% effectiveness. So if you're casting like 2 powers on the Death Company, you have a very high chance of at least getting 1 of them off. I'd probably do the one you think is going to be more important. Like if you think you really need them to survive, cast Unleash Rage first, 97% chance if you need the reroll. If you don't have to blow the reroll, did I say cast Unleash Rage first? Sorry, I meant cast Shield of Sanguinius first. If you don't need to blow the reroll, then you know your second power has got that 97% chance effectiveness with the reroll as well. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought, Michael. What did we say? No denies and units fractions is questionable. Yeah, I mean this could have been 8.5. On another day, maybe that would have been 8.5, and these two would be tied. There's very little in it. But I always say when I do these reviews, the best thing to do is actually to play the lists as they are before you go around changing stuff, because the best way I find to get my lists good is to do like small incremental changes. So play the lists, remember what I said, and as you're playing it think, oh yeah, fuck, if my Death Company did have that 5-up invuln in that turn 1, more of them would have survived and that would have got me X, Y, and Z in turn 2 or something, right? So play the lists, think about what I said, and then see if you can apply some of it. I'm not an expert on every list, but I try my best to say what I see, I guess. Oh, you're very welcome, Michael, hopefully. And then, yeah, if you want to submit another list once you've done some changes, this goes for anyone, as long as you're aware that there's a big queue right now. I guess there's going to be a queue for another month or 2. Alright, so Matty. Hi, Blood Angels Commander. First of all, a massive thank you for the help you've given me so far, and generally being a great ambassador for Blood Angels. Just started with Blood Angels and loving and playing around with ideas. So I hope this isn't too cruddy of a list. Oh, you're very welcome, Matty. Thanks for the kind comments. Hold on, let me close Facebook. People are sending me photos. Okay. And if anyone in the stream doesn't know, we have a Blood Angels painting competition going on at the moment. So if you want to enter the painting competition, make sure you... I wonder if you can just search YouTube first Blood Angels. Like, first as in first place, not thirst as in first. Yeah, and that's the video about the painting competition. You've got about 2 or 3 weeks. So we're giving away 2 Horus Heresy captains. They're a very expensive model, like £47.50. So you can enter that if you want to. And we'll be judging it in the middle of next month. It's the end of the month now. So I'll announce the date that it's ending on the 12th. And then we'll get a stream set up after that to pick some winners. Anyway, alright, let's get into Matty's list. What is this? There's a battalion and patrol. Okay, strange. We don't see that too many times. Okay, so we've got Brother Corbulo, then we got the Primaris Captain with the Warlord trait. I'm going to run through everything first and then come back to it, because he's a new player. Sounds like he's a new player. This list might need a bit of work. Assault Intercessors, we've got 8. And then we've got Assault Intercessors, we've got 9. We've got regular Intercessors with Stalkers, and it's a 6. Yeah, is that right? 6? Yeah, it's a 6, 20 points per model. We've got Blade Guard Veterans, and it's a 6 for 120 points. We've got Terminators with Thunder Hammers and the Teleport Homer. We've got Eradicators with Metal Rifles. And then in the second detachment, we've got a Captain. I actually don't think he's going to need 2 detachments here, but let's see. We then have a Intercessor Squad with just regular bolt rifles. We have a Sanguinary Guard squad, and then we've got attack bikes with multi-meltas. So why? This doesn't need to be 2 detachments. He's got 3 HQ. He's got 4 troops. He's got 3 elites, and he's got the attack bikes and fast attack. Yeah, I mean, first of all, it doesn't need to be... I'm just going to change it. There's no reason to take that patrol detachment except you hurt yourself, essentially. You charge yourself 2 CP for no reason. Okay. Yeah, it's a list from a new player. It's fine. I guess for a new player, in terms of like making a start at Blood Angels, I think it's a fine list to make a start. Oh, it's 2 captains, is it? Alright, okay. I would not spend 2 CP to get a second captain. Thank you for pointing that out, though. We could easily add one of these captains into the Death Company or make him a chapter master, right? And that fixes it. Yeah, no, I appreciate you pointing that out. So that's what I would do. I would, and because these squads are all, like, in my opinion, troops should always be, for Blood Angels at the moment, troops should always be 5-mans, right? And if, the only reason I can ever think of troops not being 5-mans is if you wanted to do a 10-man Assault Intercessor squad for the 2 CP strat to make them fight twice. So, let's assume that, like, the 2 CP strat to fight twice in Assault Intercessors is reasonably decent. So let's assume that he's just going to do that, right? Let's just change that. And also, he put a Plasma Pistol into Assault Intercessor Sergeant. That's a waste of points. I think if you wanted to put something in, put in, like, a Power Sword. Because a one-shot plasma is not going to be nearly as good as like 5 or 6 attacks, I think. I think they get 5 attacks with a power sword. So yeah, that's what I would do, right? Like, get rid of... So basically, like, you make that 100 points. I'd also... You may be a new player, so you might not have the models yet, but I would save the 100 point, like 120 points on intercessors it's wasted points. Like, troops are troops for a reason, I always say. Elites do killing, troops kind of hold objectives, but if you're going to have 3 units of troops, you probably then need to, you need more elites. The squad of Sanguinary Guard is a 10-man. So, and they're all swords, which is fine. We think right now in the meta, axes are a little bit stronger, but swords are still decent on Sanguinary Guard. If you saved 100 points here, 100 points is basically 3 more Sanguinary Guards, so that could give you a squad of 6 and a squad of 7. That's 100% what I would do. I'd split them up. Again, it comes back to the squad before, or the top before, where like a 9-man squad of Sanguinary Guard, if they ever get left out in the open, you charge in, you kill what you need to fight, you try to consolidate into cover, but you can't. Your squad's left out in the open. And typically, enemies know how good Sanguinary Guard are. They'll just mow them down with their guns. If they don't mow them down with their guns, if they don't fire everything in their army at that exposed squad of Sanguinary Guard, they probably don't know how to play against Blood Angels, because anytime I've been at a tournament or anything like that, people are familiar with Blood Angels. If any time, like, your Sanguinary Guard are left out in the open, people will shoot everything that they damn have at them, right? The Blade Guard Veteran Squad, it would be better if there were a 5-man for transhuman potentially, but I think a 6-man Blade Guard is fine. I talked about this earlier in the video about Terminators with all Thunderhammers, and I think having a couple with Lightning Claws is really good because it gives you some diversity. You never can quite tell what they're going to end up fighting on the battlefield. You have to drop the Terminators down to kill a tank, you kill a tank, and then the enemy swarm you with like tons of 1 wound infantry, and your Terminators with Thunderhammers are just bogged down for like 2 or 3 turns. They're not going to die at all, but they're bogged down because it's taking them so long to chew through these 1 wound infantry, and that's why I like some with Lightning Claws in the squad. Attack bikes with multi-meltas tend to run them as a 3-man squad if you have a healer, which I guess he does in Brother Corbulo. I question if Brother Corbulo can keep up with these, but I mean, if you feel like Brother Corbulo won't be able to keep up with them, then split them into like a 2 and a 1, because you'll be able to basically have more map control. You'll be able to reserve one of them. You know, the reason to run them as a squad of 3 is to do the reviving. But again, people are familiar with Blood Angels running attack bikes in squads of 3, and people will know if you have a healer on the battlefield, and you do in Brother Corbulo, people will know that if they're going to fire at the attack bikes, they need to wipe the whole squad. And if they do wipe the whole squad, then your healer is completely useless, right? So it's something to consider. I've played enough games now where everybody knows that if Blood Angels have a squad of 3 attack bikes, and other factions do it as well. I played Dark Angels a few weeks back, and they had 2 squads of 3 attack bikes with multi-meltas, and it's like, right, I'm just going to unload everything in my army into one squad, because if we leave one attack bike on 1 wound, then he'll heal it back up to full, and he'll resurrect another one, which is just, it's essentially giving him 100 points back, and it's very strong, and you don't want to let your opponent do that. The Eradicators are fine with melt rifles. I don't think Eradicators are brilliant for Blood Angels, but I think they're a good solid unit. They do their fair share of killing. I've got no problems with that. I notice you don't have any Incursors or Phobos units, and Phobos troops are the strongest I think that we can field right now. I think as well, a Sangre Priest with a jump pack is probably better than Corbolo, because Corbolo's weakness is his speed. We don't often see Corbolo in armies. And then I would probably actually make... I was going to say, I'd probably actually put like... Well, I guess, for one, your Primaris captain here, he can have a Warlord trait and a relic. And you haven't picked one, I guess, and then, but you have paid. I'm not sure you've actually paid the CP for it. I guess you've given your relic to this captain. I think a good Warlord trait on the Primaris captain with the Master Grafted Power Sword and Shield. I don't really run that captain myself. Why is this? The Relic Shield is add 1 to saving throws on mortal wounds. Yeah, so you already have like a 4+ save against mortal wounds, so maybe you want to put like Armor Indomitus on him to give him like 7 wounds on the 2-up save, potentially a 3-up invulnerable save. Gift of Foresight is obviously good on this character. Soul Warden would be good if you want to protect your army against mortal wounds. If you want to protect your Blade Guard veterans against mortal wounds, that sort of thing. You can hide attack bikes inside normal bike squads and options. It's my preference with Dark Angels for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be the way to run the attack bikes, wouldn't it, Reziel? And then you would, because you've got so many bikes there, they're like unlikely to kill all of them. And then you would get more value out of the healer that way, potentially. So yeah, there's a few things. I would sort out your troop choices. I would try and get some Incursors. I'll squad a 5-man Incursors probably over either the Intercessors or the Assault Intercessors. If you want to run 10, if you want to run a big unit of troops, I think the only option is Assault Intercessors. Otherwise, I would just run 3 squads of 5. I would make sure you pick Warlord traits on the character that can have Warlord traits, and I'd probably pick a Relic. I'd consider a Sangre Priest over Brother Corbulo, because I guess Corbulo could go with the Blade Guard veterans and sort of chill out in the middle of the board. I think that might be okay. We don't see Corbulo very often. He isn't really any better than a Sangre Priest, and the Priest they can do 2 things kind of better than Corbulo, in that he can move a lot quicker, and he can also be upgraded so you can do the reviving for 0 CP each turn, which arguably is very strong. The Sanguinary Guard as a 10 I don't like. I'd split these into like a 6 and a 7. The Thunderhammers, the squad of just Thunderhammers again, I don't like. And then the rest is okay. So overall, like, it's kind of okay as a starting point, I guess. I think that there's a lot. I don't want to rip it apart anymore. I guess what I want to say is, I mean, I've not seen Matty, I don't think, in the chat today, and I'm not sure we've met him on stream, but you could probably learn quite a lot, Matty, if you came to some of the Army List show streams. And I think, like, if you were playing this as in a tournament, you're missing some key things, right? And the things that I would say that you're missing are, like, you can't redeploy any of your troops, which is just one of the main reasons that I rate the Phobos troops. I've done some videos on those. Your characters, I mean, you've got the one jump captain that's reasonably fast, but you've got your Warlord on your Primaris captain, and like your Sanguinary Guard benefit a lot from being near the Warlord, so I'd probably want the Warlord on the fast moving captain, because otherwise I'm giving up like a lot of damage potential in the Sanguinary Guard. And then, yeah, Corbolo is a little bit of a strange pick. 3 damage or more weapons on the list is actually kind of fine, because you've got 6 here, and you've got like a bunch of Thunderhammers, and then you've got Thunderhammer up here, so you've got like 12 3 damage or more weapons. I kind of recommend now, probably you kind of want to be pushing up a bit higher than 12. 12 is okay, it's not bad. I used to recommend 10, but it feels like in the current meta, like I lost a couple of games when I was running like 10, and now I have like 17, and I feel like my list is a lot stronger for having those 17 3 damage or more weapons. You don't have any way to turn off Overwatch in this list, which could hurt you against certain things, like Tau with their Overwatching on 5s. You don't have any denies. Again, it could hurt you in some situations, it might not. And I guess Corbolo is providing some protection against mortal wounds, but again, he's slow. And I think that's the main reason we don't see Corbolo, is he just moves 6. And because he's slow, it's hard to move him from cover to cover. I just think a Sanguinary Priest is better. And the other thing that's nice about the Sanguinary Priest, I guess, is like the Sanguinary Priest can be made like much more killy than Corbolo, right? You look at the highest rated Blood Angels like tournament lists of late, and the ones that were running the Sanguinary Priest, they were giving him the Teeth of Terra. So he gets his 3 attacks, plus 1 from charging, plus 1 from Savage Echoes, plus 3 more from Teeth of Terra. And Teeth of Terra means he's like Weapon Skill 2, right? So you're getting 8 attacks, hitting on 2s. Teeth of Terra is Strength 5, minus 2 damage. So your Priest isn't going to get in combat in the first couple of turns, so arguably when he gets in combat in turn 3, it's going to be Assault Doctrine. So you end up getting like 8 attacks, hitting on 2s, Strength 5 with plus 1 to wound, so you wound infantry models of Toughness 4 on 2s. So 8 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, minus 3, 2 damage each, right? Like, that's enough to kill like a whole squad of Marines very, very easily. Whereas like Corbolo, he's only going to be on 6 attacks. He is at Strength 5 with the same minus 2, but he's only 1 damage. So basically like Corbolo is going to kill like a Marine or 2. And also he can't be upgraded to the Sanguinary Ancient. Sorry, he can't be upgraded to the Chief Apothecary, so he can't revive models for free. He always has to spend command points on it, and he can't jump, right? He moves 6, whereas like the Sanguinary Priest can move 12. So there's definitely a few things here that could be improved. And I guess, yeah, if you can't make this list work because you've got 2 captains there, then the way to get around that is to use the Chapter Command upgrades in the Space Marine Codex or the Death Company upgrades in the Blood Angels Codex. Make one of your captains either join the Death Company, which will cost you 20 points, or become a Chapter Master, which will cost you 40 points. Both upgrades are good. Both upgrades are kind of situational, though. Like, if this was me, I would probably either be... I'd probably either put the Chapter Master on this guy, and then like use the rerolls and auras around him, or I'd make your captain part of the Death Company, because the Death Company, a Death Company captain gets an additional attack from being in the Death Company. He also gets 6 up, feel no pain, and if you made him the Warlord, he could then run with the Sanguinary Guard and buff them, and that's probably how I would do this. So OBSEC, because you don't have any full boss units, I'm going to say it's 7.5. Anti-Horde Infantry, I mean, you've got a little bit of firepower here in that you've got 10 Sanguinary Guard, and you did have like 2 squads of Intercessors and Eradicators in multi-melta bikes, which have like Stormbolters on them, so I guess maybe it's a similar like 7.5. Anti-Monster, we get 12 3 damage weapons. I mean, we do have Blade Guard, we do have Sanguinary Guard, we do have Terminators. We had slightly too many troops for my liking, so I'm going to say it's a 9. Mobility is going to be overall decent. Eradicators aren't mobile, Blade Guard aren't mobile, your troops aren't mobile, your Captain and Corbolo aren't mobile. So maybe like a 6-5, and then Specialization. So no Fight Last, no Denies. Units for actions is okay, 3 damage weapons is okay, CP is really good, and protection against mortal wounds, I guess, is okay from Corbolo, so something like a 7.5, Matty. So, I mean, it's not terrible. It's an okay jumping off point, but I think you would probably learn a lot by coming to these shows, and I think looking at it in cursors, or a box of, I guess they sell them as infiltrators. A box of infiltrators / incursors, Sanguinary Priest with a jump pack, and maybe like the Whirlwind as an option, or suppressors. I mean, I don't think you can buy suppressors individually, so probably the Whirlwind would get you to a point where like the Death Company captain can't be the Warlord. Thanks for pointing that out, Mark. I don't run that Death Company captain that often, so yeah. So I guess probably what you need to do then is you need to drop like a couple of Assault Intercessors or something and make one of your captains the Chapter Master. Who's already dead? Corbolo could foot slog with Blade Guard. But he's not as customizable as a Sanguinary Priest. Yeah, I agree with that. This list is good for certain game types. Fun at least. If it runs into something more optimal, it will have a rough time, but there are ways to use it. Why Incursors over Infiltrators? Incursors, they're just better in combat, I think is why I like them over Infiltrators more than... Infiltrators very rarely kill shit in combat. Incursors kill shit in combat all the time. It's kind of funny how much difference 1 AP will do, but I mean, in the later stages of the game, that 1 AP becomes 2 AP. They're cheaper. You can also go a bit more aggressive with them. Don't get me wrong, like if you have an army that works with a defensive Incursor setup, defensive Infiltrator setup, you can really, you can do a lot with them. Like, I ran Super Heavy Tank for a while, right? I actually ran a Super Heavy Tank 10 times in 9th edition. It's never lost a game. And usually if I run my Super Heavy Tank, I take Infiltrators and I create a giant bubble around it where like nothing can deep strike anywhere near the Super Heavy Tank, and it can kind of just rain death on the opponents for the entire game. But typically now what you try and do is you try and put a squad of Incursors or 2 in forward positions that make your opponent think like, hey, if I want to go for that objective in turn 1, I'm going to be charged by Blood Angels in turn 1. And yeah, it's only Incursors, but they are -1 AP even from the beginning of the game. The concealed positions in cover can just put your opponent on the back foot a little bit. But yeah, I think both are strong. Like, I recommend that you buy, I think I've got the box up there. I like purposely put it in there. And the box is Space Marine Infiltrators. But as it stands, I own 3 squads of Incursors and 2 squads of Infiltrators. And at the start of 9th, I ran Infiltrators literally every single game. And then I sort of moved, as they started putting all the points costs of all the Space Marine stuff up, and it became harder to fit in 120 point troop units, I started running more Incursors, and I've kind of grown to love the Incursors. Thanks for watching tonight, Ark, and I appreciate it. Maybe consider the chaplain on a bike or a captain on a bike instead for the extra wounds. You know, a chaplain on a bike might actually be good here over this captain on a bike. He's only like 20 points. Sorry, over the Primaris captain. I'd probably do that actually. The chaplain on a bike is a model that a lot of people run and a lot of people get success out of, right? Good model for Angel Sacrifice as well if you give him Armor Indomitus. I see you're playing Tau tomorrow. What are your thoughts on the match? My thoughts on the match is it's going to be bloody difficult because Tau are in a very... I think their new codex is probably a little bit undercosted. I felt like when I played against that 3 Storm Surge list, they're undercosted for sure. They get so many weapons for 330 points. Yeah, and really good, you know, like 2 up, 4 up, and 22 wounds, and a 1 CP strat to operate at full profile. The Tau list tomorrow is full of crisis suits and broadside battle suits, so probably going to take no prisoners against it, honestly, because I'll have to kill a lot of the models, and every model I kill is infantry, so it'll count for no prisoners. So that at least makes one of the secondaries easy, but yeah, it'll be a tough game for sure. Yeah, so I think that kind of sums us up with Matty on 38 points for tonight. Bite Chaplain with Armor Indomitus, Gift of Foresight and Artisan of War with Adamantium Mantle is nigh unkillable unless your dice are trash. Yeah, I mean, you can do the exact same thing with the Chapter Master, Call Me Craven. I think if you do that, if you run that build, either the Bike Chaplain or the Chapter Master on a bike, then you can basically Angel Sacrifice once per game for free, use the Armor Indomitus and just tank through anything. And that used right can basically win or lose games, you know, because the enemy throws like Mortarion in to try and kill like a squad of Sangre Guard. You're like, nope. You have to put all your attacks into my Bite Chaplain, and he's on a 3-up save, and he's got that 5-up shrug, and I can reroll 1 save for free, and I'll spend another command point to reroll another one. You can just tank anything for 1 turn, and it's really, really good. Feels like it's the one thing that we've still got right now that's really, really strong, as everything else has been, as every other codex has come out and has been insane, you know? Power creep with new codex is a bit worrying. Our codex feels pretty bad after we get hit by the nerfs. The power creep is pretty crazy at the moment. The Eldar codex sounds like it's going to be good as well. I guess the one thing we've got to hope for is that there's supposed to be a Space Marine refresh coming. That's the rumour. Situationally, he's even better. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Situationally, he is better, and he has 1 more wound resio, so in some ways he can be better. Kill his Obsec, avoid indirect fire, reserving the best units. Don't know what Sept you're playing against. I think I'm playing against Tau Sept. And I beat Tau 2 weeks ago. Primaris Captain on a bike when, says Call Me Craven. I actually already made one Craven. I converted an Outrider because you guys probably know that I hate Outriders. So I already have a Primaris Captain on a bike converted with a Thunderhammer and a custom helmet. He is ready to go as soon as that model is announced. He's sprayed and everything. I will start painting. The second they announce that model, I will start painting him. But he's sprayed, ready to go. Even if he just gets +1 attack, +1 wound for being on a Primaris Captain over the regular one, I'd be pretty happy with that. As long as he can... The one thing that's scary, though, is like, they don't give as many options. Like, I like how he can have an Infernal Pistol and a Thunderhammer. If you hate Outriders, you will hate the list I submitted, lol. Okay. Well, I just don't think they're very competitive, I guess. I thought Outriders were... I didn't think they were that good when they were 40 points per model. Then they made them 45 points per model. Then they made them 50 points per model. So, like... Even at 40 points per model, I was like, nah, it's just like, you don't get that many attacks. And they're only 1 damage chainswords, right? And the whole thing with them, I mean, I guess they're better for White Scars. I mean, they're really good for White Scars. Okay, so that is kind of the end of today's show. Thank you for the people that submitted the lists, Daniel, Michael, and Matty. We'll be back tomorrow night for a game against Tau. The video is already set for the game against Tau, so if you want to see the Tau list, Call Me Craven, or who else was asking? bloody narcissist, you can click on tomorrow night's video and click on the link in the description. You'll be able to see you'll see the tile list. Next week we're looking at James Fisher, Life RPG, and David. I guess David didn't give me a last name, so I guess that doesn't narrow it down much. But that is it. And it's 7:30 kickoff tomorrow night, give or take. Sorry for being a few minutes late tonight, guys. I appreciate you waiting and hanging out. If I've got a stream, I don't think I've ever been late before, but if I've got a stream set and I'm not here, just assume that like one of my children is having a meltdown and I will be here as soon as possible. That's what happened tonight. So yeah, cool. You're looking forward to the game against Tau. I'm glad someone is looking forward to it because I'm really not. It was obnoxious how much indirect fire Andrew had last time I played against Tau, and it's going to be an obnoxious number of indirect fire shots, isn't it? I'm going to have a think about how much I reserve before that game for sure. Alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks again for watching. By the blood are we made strong. Peace.